Age Joyfully is a sisterhood movement to empower women to embrace life and age, and to live joyfully. In this youth-obsessed culture, most commercials suggest that older women are feeble victims, with fear-based messages that are damaging and negatively cause women to fear growing older, feeling discontented and restless as they struggle with aging. Ms. Ruby Sear begs to differ that old is a lost youth. She is passionate to share and to inspire women through this monthly Age Joyfully talk show, together with other like-minded women, to encourage women to be proud of their age. She believes that as we age, we grow into a deeper kind of beauty that is a culmination of wisdom, discernment, and life experiences. Let us now join Ms. Ruby Sear, who is hosting today of Age Joyfully talk show. Dedicated to women, this program is brought to you by Bobel Swiss Skincare.
Welcome to the show of Age Joyfully. So just for your information, the Age Joyfully movement is created for women and men to get together to talk, empower and encourage each other on all the pillars relating to the concept of Age Joyfully. Yeah, the COVID-19, as we were talking just now, pandemic, has had a major effect on our lives. Many of us are facing challenges that can be stressful, overwhelming, and cause strong emotions in adults as well as children. Yeah, because now children cannot even play with their peer groups and all. They are all locked in, so affecting the mental health. So public health actions, such as social distancing, which are necessary to reduce the spread of COVID-19, but they can make us feel very isolated and lonely, and can also increase stress, and anxiety. Hence, learning to develop a positive and strong mindset is essential to make you and the people you care about and those people around you become more resilient in this trying time. So today, I have the honor to speak to two very distinguished guests who have delved deep and wide into this mental health subject matter. Yeah? So let us welcome my guest number one, Azran Osman-Rani. So, Azran is one of Malaysia's, if Petra doesn't know him yet, or maybe you would have known him. Is one of Malaysia's most well-known CEOs and entrepreneur. He is the ex-CEO of iFlix and AirAsia X. I think most people, if not all, will know who AirAsia X is, right? So he built disruptive new businesses that challenge the status quo. And his current venture, Naluri, is a digital health therapeutic company that uses AI tools to augment professional care for chronic diseases and mental health, to make it more accessible and affordable. Aside from this, he's also currently an adjunct professor at the Faculty of Health Sciences at the National University and Industry Advisory Board member at International Medical University, IMU, and the Sunway University Business School. He mentors high-growth companies for Endeavor and invests in technology startups. He's an Ironman triathlete. So welcome, Azran.
Thank you for having me, Ruby.
So it's our honor to have you. Heard so much about you, so this time I'm really encountering you on virtual platform. Okay, so my guest number two is Petra Velzeboer, is a renowned mental health expert, TEDx speaker, and CEO of mental health consultancy PVL. She captures, surprises, and inspires audiences with an incredible story of transforming adversity into advantage and challenges them to take responsibility for their mental health. Having escaped the cult Children of God, she now talks to audience about her ultimate rock bottom, battle with mental illness, and her subsequent transformation, leading to her founding a flourishing mental health business. And her core values of lightness, bravery, and responsibility shines through alongside her bold approach to mental health and helping people to see the humor in our humanness. Petra is a psychotherapist with a Master Science in Psychodynamics of Human Development and is a qualified ORSC and CTI certified coach. Yeah. So without further ado, I will go into the questions. Okay, first question is directing, you're most welcome. So happy to have you, Petra, all the way from UK. And having to wake you up early in the morning.
It's okay.
Thank you, yeah. Okay, so my first question is directing at Azran. So there is a prevalence of depression, anxiety and stress among Malaysians during this challenging COVID pandemic period. How serious is this really?
Well, it is a serious issue, Ruby. We take a quantitative approach to it. We quantify levels of depression, anxiety, and stress. We now have over 30,000 data points. And what we've seen is there's been an increase of 40 to 50% in terms of pre versus post COVID. But they're also important to dig underneath the layers. It has affected younger generations. In our case, we focus mainly on employees, but the 21 to 30 age group is probably most at risk compared to, say, the above 40s. There's a small gender difference. There are some job functions that have experienced higher levels. And there's also a geographic factor as well. Certain states and cities in Malaysia have seen higher increases in levels of depression, anxiety, and stress compared to other places.
Yeah, I see. So what about in UK, Petra?
Well, interestingly, this was already a problem before the pandemic, right? We need to remember it hasn't just surfaced because of the pandemic, but for many people, perhaps they could keep it more underground. Perhaps they had a predisposition for depression or anxiety. And then the pandemic, of course, like you said, Ruby, the isolation, sort of not being around family and friends, all of these risk factors has of course made it worse for people. I know it's about 1 in 5 people are experiencing depression, so diagnosable depression. But certainly in the work that I do, every single day, somebody will come to me through LinkedIn or through other networks and say, I'm struggling to the point of feeling suicidal. So I know just anecdotally that the challenge is absolutely growing globally.
It's true, yeah, because we also heard from friends and we read in the newspapers, the suicidal cases are going up and also, marriage breakup and things like that. Yeah, so I would like to actually ask Petra, what are the most current and prevalent mental health issues that are happening worldwide, corporately or individually?
So it is depression and anxiety. They're the biggest sort of pandemics when it comes to mental health. According to the World Health Organization, depression was already the leading cause of disability worldwide, right? And then the pandemic hit and so many more things are happening. Interestingly, corporately, I think what we see on the horizon, though, is actually burnout. So the amount of stress people are experiencing, perhaps, like you said, relationship breakdown, children struggling, a parent who's been ill, the no boundaries between work and home. So you're always on. And where people used to travel maybe on either side, they are working more and more, right? And so if they're not working, they are on screens, feeling that stress in our body. It isn't just in our brain. We think mental illness is just a brain thing, but we feel stress and trauma, collective trauma in our body. And so these are the kind of signs that we're seeing now. I often do a poll with employees when I do training and ask about burnout symptoms in the last month or so. And the biggest group say all of the symptoms already apply to them. So this is going to show up even more in the next 6-18 months.
Yeah, because we still do not know where this is going to end, right?
So much uncertainty.
Correct. Yeah. So what about Azran?
I think building on to Petra's point about depression and anxiety being the most prevalent conditions, in Malaysia specifically, for example, 40% of working adults have elevated levels of depression, 60% have elevated levels of anxiety, and 30% have elevated levels of stress, but at different degrees of severity or intensity, right? A lot of focus has been on that bottom 20%, that 1 in 5 that Petra mentioned, that have a clinical condition where they're no longer able to function at work. But very interestingly is that group above them. So they already have elevated levels of depression, anxiety, but they still are functioning at work. But this is the group when things get tough, they slip into that red zone, right? And it's important to think about the preventive measures for that group because they're the ones that are most vulnerable.
It's true. Yeah. Okay. Now, what is the difference between mental health and mental illness, Azran?
Well, mental health is not just an illness or weakness, right? It exists in a spectrum. There's also positive mental health. And maybe it's important to start there. Here's my take on it, right? If you compare it to physical health, and you think about physical fitness, there might be things like stamina. The equivalent in terms of a positive mental health attribute is resilience, the ability to bounce back up. In physical health, you might have speed, right? The equivalent in mental health may be something like focus, the ability to focus and concentrate. Or in mental health, it might be physical health, it might be strength, right? Like weightlifters. Right. In mental health, that's optimism, being able to look at things glass half full. Another aspect of physical health is flexibility, like a gymnast, right? Whereas in mental health, that's curiosity, to be able to look at things from different views. And lastly, perhaps with physical health and fitness is coordination and balance, like a gymnast or a Formula One driver. And in mental health, that's social connectedness, our ability to connect with other people. So once you understand that they're positive attributes and how if you don't take care of these things, that's why it deteriorates into depression, anxiety, stress, burnout, and disengagement and loneliness.
Well, Azran explained it so well. So that comparing of mental health versus mental illness, it's worth just adding about stigma. And so stigma is often assuming that when we say mental health, we mean mental illness, right? So we're only talking about, hey, let's talk about our mental health. Ooh, I'm not comfortable talking about the fact that I'm struggling to my family or in the workplace, right? When actually we're trying to re-educate people that mental health is a good thing. We need mental health to be successful, to thrive in our relationships as parents, a whole host of things. And so we want to come from that prevention space of if we open up and are honest about our mental health, because every person moves up and down that mental health continuum, just like our physical health. We can feel really energized and strong one day, and perhaps we feel a bit tired or weak, or we didn't eat well and it's affecting us. And so these are the conversations I'm having with businesses is we can just be like in my team, I'm the CEO of my company, we'll say, how's your mental health this week? And we know that we're not just saying, do you have depression? Right? We're saying, have you gone for a run? Did you sleep well? Are you talking to people? So this is the re-education that we need in the world.
Well, it's a very good analogy because, mental health means it's like, people aware of it and you actually take precaution, prevention for this mental condition to deteriorate into like a mental illness, right? Yeah, fantastic. Okay, how then, Petra, do you proactively build mental health? How does one proactively build mental health?
So there's lots of ways and there's lots of studies about what can help, but I find that it's important to know it's not one size fits all. There are some foundation components like eating well and talking and these sorts of things. But actually, from my experience of depression, alcohol addiction, postnatal depression, a whole host of things, I had to not feel like I was in one box, one direction, right? I went to my doctor. He wasn't helpful. Sometimes they are, but for me, it wasn't. So I needed to learn to meditate and do different things. So everybody's different, and it's worth knowing that we're in an information age where there's so much free information on YouTube, talks, places where you can go and take personal responsibility. But I quite like the study that was done in the UK about the 5 ways to well-being. So those 5 ways are those good foundation tools to see if you're in balance. Number 1 is connection. No wonder we're struggling so much if connection is
Yeah.
more difficult now, right?
Yeah.
Being active, we're sitting at our desk longer and longer hours. No wonder we're feeling a bit more down. And then I like the ones about giving back. So when we help others, it actually boosts our well-being. Learning. So when we learn and we can be curious, like Azran said, it's good for our mental health. And then finally, mindfulness or presence. And in a world that is so uncertain and stressful, it's harder for people to just be in the moment because we're thinking, well, I have a job. What's happening? My family, are they safe? And so this is also affecting us. But if we can come back to those 5 ways and just think, what is in my control? What is one small thing I can do to do one of those that will boost our mental health?
Well, maybe just to build on the great foundation that Petra laid off, one thing to focus on for me is sleep, right?
Yeah.
Sleep is massively important for our mental health. And interestingly, right, just like how when we build our physical muscles, our muscles only grow when we sleep. Same thing with our mental health, because what happens at night is that there are these glial cells in our brain that act like a gardener pruning weeds. And those weeds are those anxious thoughts of the future, the depressive thoughts of the past that keep ruminating in our heads. So getting quality sleep is important so that the glial cells can do their job in order to, that's how when you get a good night's sleep, you wake up feeling much more clear-headed. But very important, number one, it's not so much about the hours that you sleep, but the quality of your sleep. And that's why sometimes, people might take alcohol or sedatives to fall asleep. They'll fall asleep, but the quality of the sleep's not good. And it's not enough for the glial cells to do their job to kind of get us to be clearer in our minds the next day.
Yeah. So Azran, how many hours of sleep do you have per night?
Well, so again, less important for me is hours, but I want to make sure that I get at least 90 minutes of deep sleep and at least 90 minutes of REM sleep. And I use an Aura ring. I have no business relationship with them, but I love it because it gives me measurements and I know what are the things I do the night before, the day before that affect the quality of my sleep. And that's how we're going to learn, by kind of doing different things and then having a way to measure whether what works for us or not. Because as Petra mentioned, different people will need different actions in order to build their mental health.
Yeah, it's true. On the Mother's Day, my children gifted me with the Fitbit watch. So every night, before I sleep, I will put it on and, then I measure. Yeah, right. It's a quality sleep. So I'm actually growing more conscious, it's not the number of hours, but it's the quality. I look at as you say, the REM, deep sleep, how many hours I'm in it, that will give me fair, good, so that actually motivates me, to train myself, to have actually good sleep, good quality sleep every night. Yeah. So Petra, you have anything to add on?
Yes, I was thinking about sleep because me and my boyfriend, we need different amounts of sleep and he struggles with depression. And so he needs 9 hours, 8 to 9 hours. And if he has 2 or 3 nights, which is 5 or 6 hours, he has trouble falling asleep, his mood will be impacted the next day. But because we know that it's not, because of the circumstances, I didn't have enough sleep. So my brain is viewing things, my perspective is a bit more heavy and clouded. Whereas for me, it annoys him. I can just wake up at the crack of dawn and I'm fine. My mood's fine, So so self-awareness is that first step. And I love what Azran's saying. It's our physical health is connected to our mental health. People, so much conversation, old school conversation separates it. Physical health is the body, mental health is the brain, but our head is connected to our body, right? So it all feeds into each other. So we've got to know ourselves first. What do I need to help me feel balanced and productive in life?
Right, yeah. Okay, if someone is struggling now with mental health, what should they do to get help, Azran?
Well, clearly, if they can get access to professional care on the spot, that's probably the most important. And that's why one of the things that we do is to provide a 24/7 helpline so that anyone in any of the countries that we operate have the ability to get just free access to professional care. But generally, for me, the principle is to be aware that, when we feel overwhelmed, right, we have all of these thoughts and worries that are flooding in our heads. How can we distill it to what are the few things I can take action on? right? Rather than allow a lot of these thoughts to overwhelm us, what are the smallest things that I can do? And maybe it might just start with going outdoors and get some sun and going for a walk, and celebrate that as momentum, as a small step forward, and then think about what's next after that. To always be in a state of, I want to act rather than just allowing things to happen to me.
Yeah. Azran, I know you have this naluri. So how does it help in the mental health?
Basically, it's a team of human qualified professionals, so clinical psychologists and counselors, but also dietitians, doctors, fitness coaches, and pharmacists working as a team to guide people using digital tools. Because nowadays, we don't have, it's not convenient to go to a hospital or clinic or a therapy center. And so that's what we do, is to be able to provide people with digital access to professional care.
I see. So it's on a subscription basis?
Yeah, although most of our work are with our corporate clients who want to provide well-being solutions for their employees or their insurance policy holders.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So, so Petra, anything to add on? Where can they get help?
Well, first of all, if you're struggling, often the mistake people make is they wait. So they hold it in because they're worried about the impact, or will someone judge them? So they hold it in until they're in crisis. So now that I'm in crisis, I'm desperate. I'm going to look for the support, the care, the doctor, So my suggestion is always start way ahead. And this is where it starts with that self-awareness. If you know yourself, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit shaky. I'm feeling a bit down for many days in a row. Maybe I might start with talking to a trusted friend, right? So maybe there's backup in your immediate circle, a parent, a friend, but you don't have to tell everybody, but start with one small thing, someone you trust. That's what I had to do. And it's very scary when you've never experienced this before. But when we start talking, the burden of it can be relieved in some way, and we can get some support to ask for the right help. And then I back up, of course, what Azran's saying here. We have the National Health Service, so people can access through the doctor, but that's very stretched because of COVID. So many people are on waiting lists. So talking is crucial. And this could be to a friend, but yes, to a professional as well. And here we have helplines also. So where you might be feeling really low or suicidal, access the helplines. It's someone independent from your life who can listen and help you think of those next steps.
Yes, I think first thing is, you have to acknowledge the fact that, you have this condition. Yeah, because some people, they just have the denial, that they are having some sort of mental health issues, so then they don't go and get help. Yeah. So, okay. So now, very good, very insightful. So before we close, what are the closing remarks, that each of you want to leave with the audiences, who are actually listening now?
We talked a lot about how as individuals we need to seek help when we are feeling depressed or anxious or stressed. I think it's also important to talk about the role of family members, friends, and work colleagues, right? To kind of understand that, how do we support one another? First, how do we understand what are the signs and symptoms to look out for when our colleagues or family members are in need of help? Second, what are the right ways to approach them? Because there are right ways of approaching and the wrong ways of approaching, right? And then third, knowing how do we help them escalate to get professional care when they do. So there's a whole series of things, but I think by making it a collective responsibility, either in our family or in our workplace situation, and not expect one person on their own to kind of get the help that they need. But if we can address this as a collective, I think we're going to make a bigger impact to the collective mental well-being in our workplace.
And then they will have to check out Naluri. I'm sure you have got this group of professionals, who can actually lend help, for anybody who needs.
Thank you. So what we mostly do is training and development for leaders and employees. So supporting with resilience, stress, mental health, but also what Azran's saying is, how do we effectively support others? Because there's two popular questions. One is, how do I support myself? The other is, my friends are struggling, what do I do? And the key thing to remember is, you do not have to have the answer or know how to fix the situation, right? You don't have to. This stops people, especially if you're a parent and you love the person, you want to fix it, you want to make it better. If you're a manager, you're like, I need to fix this because we have a job to do, right? But actually that pushes people away very often. And it stops us from asking, because I'm like, oh, I don't know about depression. What shall I do, right? But if we can just listen, and then ask curious question, what's that like for you? Because two people can have depression and be experiencing it in different ways, right? What's it like for you? Is there any way I can help? I know that we have this helpline. Maybe I can support you to access that service, right? So this is the training and development we try to help people with, because it sounds easy, but it's very difficult, because it means we have to stop talking and just be present with the uncomfortableness that might be happening, and just be alongside somebody with empathy. So those are the key skills. And of course, sometimes we just need a bit of training and support in how to do that.
Yeah, it's true. So I think the one that you talked to, must have also very strong mental health. Yeah, there's a story, this guy saw one boy, almost jumping into the river. Wanted to commit suicide, So, another guy came and then, trying to advise him, what to do. But after listening to the guy who wanted to commit suicide, both of them jumped down. Because the one supposed to be advising, he doesn't have a very strong mindset, that doesn't have a strong mental health, So I think go to the professional. Go to the professional to seek help, and family members, who are understanding, empathy, full of empathy, to talk to the person. I think that's very important, the family support. So for me, I would like to tell the audience, hardest times often lead to the greatest moments of your life. Keep going. Tough situations actually build strong people in the end. Stay safe and stay positive. Thank you so much, Azran and Petra, for joining us. And we are really honored, and so insightful, in this short 30 minutes. But then I myself have learned so much, about the mental health. So thank you so much. And I wish you all the best and stay safe. And pray and hope that, this pandemic thing is going to at least, ease for the whole business to go on. So thank you so much. And we'll keep in touch again. All right. So Azran, I will definitely catch up with you once the MCO is lifted because he's in Malaysia. So hopefully we can also go over to England, to visit Petra.
Let's do it. Thank you for having us.
All right. Lovely seeing you again,
Thank
Petra.
you so much.